everyone. Welcome to another Underrated Film Saturday, and today I'm going to be briefly addressing the 90s film Batman: The Mask of the Phantasm, which is a 2D animated Batman film that focused primarily on trying to be within the style as well as format of the 90s Batman the Animated Series television show. So this was kind of a movie that was sort of supposed to kind of bring the sort of stories that were part of the series and just make a film that is just kind of one sort of bigger story and put it on the big screen. And the reason why I think this one got overlooked, unfortunately, is because they initially did want to make it, as far as from what I could tell by my research, they wanted to have it just be a direct to DVD, but then they eventually decided last minute to put it in theaters, which unfortunately, again, doesn't really lend itself out too well for a lot of films because usually you have to build up a lot of momentum for a film in order for it to get people invested or interested in wanting to see it. So again, a lot of advertising is involved. And if you don't hype a film up, then the likelihood of people knowing about it or hearing about it or wanting to see it is a little bit slimmer. So that's why I think this film unfortunately did not do well at the box office when it was initially released, and hence it kind of faded away to obscurity. But I did hear that there was a lot of, I guess, sales of it that came about eventually when it was on DVD, but it didn't seem like it grasped, I think, a lot of people's attention. So without further ado, though, let me address sort of what it is about. And obviously, it's about none other than Batman. And this plot is somewhat elaborate, so I ultimately don't want to spoil things for people and really give away as to what exactly happens, because sort of this plot and the way in which it's constructed, it's kind of like one thing happens that leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So it's not this long consistency within the plot, um, largely because there's a lot of backstory. So if uh, so again, if you have that, then it's a lot difficult for me to, in particular, explain exactly what's going on. But I will say, in the simplest of terms of what I can explain as far as the plot, is that Batman is sort of fighting against a ton of gangsters, in particular a killer who is called the Phantasm, really, hence we have the title, The Mask of the Phantasm, because he wears like this mask thing and has this kind of elaborate costume. Um, and also the Joker becomes involved within this plot as well. So you've got multiple villains actually that are sort of taking up a good chunk of screen time and sort of affecting the plot here. So that also, I think, makes it relatively entertaining, and again, why we have these kinds of different points into which the plot is focusing on, uh, hence various villains, and that's kind of good. I think there's a good sense that they needed to up the amount of what's going on since they were making a full-length feature as opposed to just an episode. Um, and you'll see how Batman eventually has a former lover of his, Andrea, who sort of comes into the picture as well, and also has a huge impact on the plot too. So there's a lot of things that end up happening within uh, this particular story that, again, I don't really want to spoil, but I'm kind of giving away as to who's really involved. And that's kind of all you need to really know going in. I mean, if you really enjoy the television show, Batman the Animated Series, I think you will like this film. It has all of the things that you come to know, I think, a lot of the times with Batman, or at least the sort of image, more, I guess, modern day image of Batman that we have nowadays. It's very dark and brooding. There's a lot of drama, which is also something that's, I think, more so the serious side of comic books that we sort of see. And there's a lot of kind of tragedy as well. So you really get in the mix of all these different things, and you really do see Batman kind of looking back on things and, ultimately seeing how one part of his life ends up taking a drastic turn and um, how, this ends up kind of creating tragedy and, various uh, different paths um, within his life that he sort of takes because of those things that end up happening. So you really do overall get a good picture of Batman as a character within this film. And also, there's a lot of dimension too with all the other characters as well. In particular, the Andrea uh, woman who is an ex-lover of Batman. So it is all of what you, I think, enjoy out of Batman. And it also has an interesting little twist, too. Some people may or may not have seen it coming. It just kind of depends on, depending on, how much you've seen of Batman. It probably just depends on whether or not you get sort of the little twist that ends up happening. But you'll sort of see the context and how it sort of makes sense. So ultimately, I think it still works in that sense as well. So if you enjoy these kinds of stories, if you like the dark, kind of more brooding Batman, uh, if you enjoy seeing kinds of various um, kind of plot directions, and then ultimately seeing how everything kind of gets tied up together, you will also thoroughly enjoy this film. And again, even though it is animated, again in the 2D format, it still takes itself fairly seriously, and you do get a sense of who's motivated by what and um, why one character does this one particular action, and so it really does overall work as a story, and the characters are also work as their prospective characters as well. So um, that's though I think really all I can say about this particular film without really giving too much away. I mean, it is very interesting, so I would definitely recommend it if you are a Batman fan, and if you really do enjoy the sort of, again, more dark side of this character. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.